Hello, you're tuning to AWANI Review with me, Cynthia. Today we will be taking a closer look at the informal sector, which is set to become the fastest growing part of the Malaysian workforce. And leading this shift are startups that are turning gig work into real job opportunities. And one standout example is Kiddocare, Malaysia's leading platform for childcare services. Today I'm really excited to have the founder and CEO Nadira Yusoff with me today, who will be sharing her journey on how she turned this idea into a thriving business and, more importantly, serve a real impact, which is also helping women seeking flexible work opportunities. So first of all, Nadira, thank you so much for having me here at your office.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for having me on your show.
Well, I'm really excited to speak to you because I've heard of Kiddocare for a number of years now. I believe that Kiddocare started in 2019, right?
Yes.
So it has been described to me that Kiddocare is like Grab services but for babysitters.
Yes. Simply put, yes.
Simply put, right? So in your own words then, could you talk to us a bit more about Kiddocare? How did this journey start? Was it your own experience of the difficulty of finding babysitters, or was it just a demand you saw in the market at that time?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Cynthia, for that question. So simply put, Kiddocare is a platform that connects parents with our trained and vetted childcare service providers, right? We wanted to make it, flexible and easily accessible to parents. But most importantly, it's making sure that we can establish some sort of trust, right? And we started this basically in 2019. The idea was sparked in 2018, right? When I was working a lot with women entrepreneurs, I was heading a lot of a few women entrepreneurship organizations, and I work a lot with them. And being a mom of 6 also, right? It's also my own personal journey of trying to juggle the struggle of managing businesses and my children, right, growing up. But I've always wondered, right? I mean, what is the cause of women not entering workforce or leaving the workforce or even denying promotions, right? So at that time, it was year 2018. And if you remember, it was the Women Empowerment Year, right? It was deemed as that. And there were a lot of initiatives and ideas thrown around. How do we get more women into workforce? How can we get more women in the 30% of the boards and leadership and whatnot? But the women are leaving workspace, right? How can we first create the funnel? I thought that was the fundamental question that we really need to look into, right? And when we dive into the whole situation of why, right? Children are usually sent to childcare centres, and in Malaysia at that time, we required about 38,000 childcare centres, but we only had less than 4,000 childcare centres in the year 2018. Now that's alarming, because when that's the case, parents are sending children either to unregistered places or unskilled workers, and moms actually decide to stay home, right? So we figured we've got to do something about this, right? The access to reliable childcare must be there. It's great, if we can have more childcare centres, that would be perfect. But it would require time, heavy investment. It's physical centres, right? And then I was looking at, now, why are our caretakers not skilled? Why are they, unprofessional and things like that? Because we hear a lot of, news of children being abused, children being neglected, in some cases even death, right? I mean, we were exploring all this, and our a real dependency on foreign workers to take care of our children. But here, we've got many women who were looking for jobs, right? And we have many Malaysian talents who came out from the early childhood education background, but there's not enough work for them. Yeah, not enough opportunities. So how can we marry this? Moms who want to go to work, parents who need help, and also women who might want to enter into the industry, right? But the challenge was this on the talent side, right? Our local Malaysians, our locals, did not want to enter the workspace because childcare is deemed as a makcik-makcik tolong-tolong jaga kind of business, right? There is no career path. There's no there's no dignity, to that kind of job. It's considered as tolong-tolong jaga, right? This is a real concern. I mean, you know, as parent, you know, especially with children at a very tender early age, you know, this is the time when children are acquiring skills, you know, adopting their social skills and all that. So imagine you need to be able to provide the caregiver or a child with a caregiver that can not just take care but develop and nurture and enrich them at this very early stage, right? So caregivers must be trained. So how do we get them into the space?
Which is what I want to get to, because childcare services, babysitting, this is an industry where there's a lot of scrutiny because you know, the safety reasons, the regulatory environment as well. But we'll go to that later. Training and vetting. I'm very interested to know, how do you ensure that your childcare providers are trained and vetted? Because at the end of the day, this business is built on trust.
Oh yes.
Yes, parents will not send their kids to someone they do not trust. So how did you build that along the way in the past 7 years that we have been?
It's actually been 5 years now. So we commercialized Kiddocare in 2019. But you know, the first thing that we decided to do when we wanted to do Kiddocare is to look into the training and professionalization of the care workers, right? Because professionalization will then allow them to enter the industry, get good pay, get good recognition, dignified profession, right? So training is utmost necessary, right? And the training modules that we develop is designed to fit the purpose of a home care service, right? So it's different from what you get if you work in childcare centers and whatnot, because this is home care. Imagine a carer has to go into, you know, a stranger's house and expected to be able to warm up to a child she doesn't even know, right? Expected to create activities and things like that. This is an acquired skill, right? They need to be able to be trained. So first and foremost, we develop our training modules. We model them over the nanny services in Europe and in the US. We didn't have anything in the region to even benchmark with, right? But we also benchmark against the current childcare training programs that are available, like the Khusus Asuhan Permata for Taska and things like that, right?
So are all your caregivers trained?
Oh yes, it is a compulsory requirement, right? So we don't allow, even if you have masters in early childhood education, you're a mom of 6, you know, you cannot come into Kiddocare without going through our process. So number 1, training. Number 2 is the background security check, right? So we run this together with background security PDRM, and then we do psychometric assessment on our Kiddocarers. There's actually a whole lot of assessments that we do, skills, background, personality, and things like that. So we weed out, maybe applicants that do not meet certain standards, right? But that's not all in ensuring trust. So that's capability building and things like that, right? But I think the most important aspect of Kiddocare is actually the technology. So we believe that technology can be used to solve the inefficiencies in childcare, right? Making it accessible, ensuring that you can monitor certain services, you can get updates, because that also provides help parents to, provides with a peace of mind, knowing, what's happening with my child on an hourly basis, right? And a whole lot of innovation in terms of the processes, making sure we have certain SOPs.
Could you go into a bit more detail about how technology is helping you improve that, boost that sense of trust among people who use your app and your services?
Right. So our concept has always been, how do we humanize the technology, right? Because we're dealing in the space of childcare, right? So how can technology be used in order for parents to have a peace of mind? So can we automate certain of our SOPs to make sure that updates are done at an hourly basis. How can we create a channel where parents and the caregivers can basically communicate together with our monitoring team to ensure that SOPs are met, right? How can we also create a platform that can personalize parents' requirement, right? Because we believe that every family has different requirements, right? And childcare needs come at different time, different places. So personalization is key, right? So a parent can actually book for a carer, based on 2 hours duration or a day duration or a week duration. Very flexible for them.
What's the minimum time?
2 hours. Just 2 hours, and we can cater up to 3 hours minimum requirement. So that's how on demand it is. So I wanted to also impress on you that the platform is actually an on demand platform, right? Because again, right, a child could get sick, you know, and have to come back from school, or you know, you can get sick and you have no time to, or you know, not capable to take care of your child. So our system has been designed to be an on-demand platform with the technology to also allow you to monitor, to speak to your carer, to address concerns with our admins. To have a profile of a carer, you know, that suits your requirement, and you can, you know, look into their experiences, how many jobs they've done, how many hours.
So it's like the rating system you see when you're using e-hailing
yes,
driver.
that's right.
Okay.
Right.
Could you share some key figures on Kiddocare in terms of its number of families that have used the platform, the number of caregivers, and how has it been since the commercialization 5 years ago until now?
Well, you know, it's funny because we started in 2019. We had a very good growth in the first year, right? A whole lot of demand.
And then pandemic.
And then the pandemic hit us, you know, that was, you know, stalling us for a little, but we really did pick up in 2022.
Okay.
So it was essentially about 3 years that we really started going deep into the business, right? And for now, alhamdulillah, we've been able to service more and support more than 250,000 families.
Okay.
We have over 20,000 registered Kiddocarers with us, and so I think we're also nationwide now, even in Sabah and Sarawak, but we're only in major cities at the moment. But we're trying to expand and look into several new models for us to expand into.
We'll dive into that a bit
areas.
more later on, but I do wanted to talk about, you know, earlier mentioned about just turning the informal sector. Childcare is always babysitting is always seen as an informal sector, but the beauty of gig economy is that how it has professionalized some of these sectors that used to be seen as informal. Can you talk to us a bit about that mission, right? And the changes that you have seen, or the impact that you have seen with these services in helping women access job opportunities which may be inaccessible, less accessible before, compared to before,
So I think, you know, I wanted to draw back into that early mission of Kiddocare, right? And it was always about creating job opportunities for our locals in the areas of childcare, right? But also very cognizant of the challenges that the industry had before. So how do we introduce our talents into the areas of care, right? So to build up their interest. So of course, you know, by allowing them to participate in the industry in a flexible manner, right? Allowing them to come in and work, right? Whenever they feel like working, right? And this basically suits our profile of our Kiddocarers, and most of them are, you know, single mothers and those who are juggling 2 jobs, you know, graduates and even undergraduates who are looking at, you know, part-time jobs, right? And we have seen that interest, you know, once they go in, of course with the training and whatnot, starting to, you know, be more attached to the children, that soon becomes an interest from just, you know, it's a gig job to I want to establish this career in childcare, right? And one of the things that we pride ourselves with is to create that kind of a career advancement program for our Kiddocarers. So we believe that, you know, coming into the gig work actually allows you to participate, build your interest, really understand what this job is all about, right? And then with the programs that we have under our Kiddocare Academy, you could, you know, earn a higher certification, you can go into programs that will then lead you to become either a professional nanny, or we put you into the track of, you know, serving the childcare centres and even kindergartens.
So there are opportunities or growth progression opportunities for your caregivers.
Yes. Now for us that is very important because we realize that, you know, many women in this industry actually want to create that kind of career progression for themselves, right? By allowing our programs to be accessible to them anytime, you know, it's also very flexible to take on, you know, various other programs. We work with the ministry to also sponsor. So we provide scholarships for our carers to take on the KAP or the SKM, right? And that we have seen, you know, created a great number of full-time jobs for the carers.
So your 20,000 caregivers, they are not full, well, they are gig workers essentially,
gig workers, yes.
But they are mostly serving on your platform.
Yes, they are serving on our platform, and some of them have moved on to becoming teachers in childcare centres and kindergarten. And that is also why we're exploring our second model, right? Establishing our childcare center is actually the
Seems
first.
like a natural step.
Yes, natural progression. But we want to also look at this model to become another career path for our carers, right?
Okay.
Not just to enter into the childcare center to become teachers, but opportunities for them to turn themselves into childcare entrepreneurs by owning the centers later.
All right, so this is in the works.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about it, just briefly. Maybe just talk to us about what's in store and what's the expansion plan here.
All right. I think Kiddocare wants to continue to support parents and their children as they evolve. Their needs will evolve, and as they grow older. So we want to be able to support with more products and services that can cater to their developmental milestone, right? And we're building the technology, we're building our capacities in order to do that. We're establishing our schools as well. And we're also hoping our second model could go into the urban and rural areas, so we can make high quality childcare accessible to all, right? That's very important. We're also looking into regional expansion next year. So yeah,
fantastic.
A whole lot of stuff to do.
Okay. Can you go a bit deeper into regional, or at this point, is that all you can share with
well,
us?
at this point, I think we have to do a lot of market research. We have to look into the different kind of requirement in different market. But we are eyeing countries like Singapore and Jakarta, Manila as
main
the cities.
cities.
Yeah.
Okay. Now going back to the idea of setting up childcare center, right? How do you see that growing and growing hand in hand with the app that you have built quite successfully so far?
I think the technology is going to be the one that basically glues everything together, right? From the technology, there are a lot of data that we can interpret to see how else we can support families. And from the customers we serve, the children that we have taken care of, we know naturally they will have to progress to institutional childcare. And children requires that. They need the childcare, the social skills, physical skills and whatnot, right? So it is a very natural transition for Kiddocare to establish our centers, apart from providing greater job opportunities for our carers and turning them into entrepreneurs, right? And I think it is something that will value add to our customers, of course, right? Being able to stay with us in the very early age of their children, 0 to 2 years old, and then going into schools. So we want to be there every step of the way. So we really think that building the schools would be a value add to what we have.
Okay, that's very exciting, and I look forward to hearing about that more later on. Just turning to a more personal insight, right? You've started this company. I mean, you have always been an entrepreneur. Kiddocare 2019, but then always been an entrepreneur at heart. I think as startup grows, right? Often what happens is you have to shift from being very hands-on to more strategic thinking. So I just want to get a sense of where you are right now, managing day-to-day at the same time, thinking about strategic expansion, your leadership style, having to be hands-on, hands-off. How's the day like, for Nadira Yusoff?
I think right now it's a hybrid, whether it's hands-on or hands-off. I am actually still very hands-on, but I have shifted from the the early stage of an entrepreneur where the team is small, and everything falls back to the founders, right? But now we're scaling. Of course, the team has grown from 4 of us to now having I think close to about 68 of us in a company. We've built a pretty solid, great team, right? The leaders are all very capable, they're very insightful, and I think they have the real passion for Kiddocare and the communities we serve, right? From families and children to the women. I think that's very important. Once they have their hearts in the right places, I think that actually gives me a more easy path to basically empower them with the tasks that we need to do, because we know it is not just their capability but the heart to do it right, right? And that's important. So my role now has shifted from actually looking into operations. I started off as also the admin, answering questions, making the bookings and whatnot, right? Even going down for service, I've done that in the early stage, right? But now it is more strategy, and we're looking at expansion. So of course You know, I lead in terms of investor management, relation, try to get more investors into
Are you looking
Kiddocare, of course.
at fundraising anytime soon?
We just closed our pre-Series A last year, and we're hoping to close our Series A next year to support our expansion, you know, the centers, the technology, the academic programs. So yeah, I juggle with that, but I'm also still very hands-on in terms of, you know, customers' satisfaction, our carers' performance. I think that is really the sense of Kiddocare, you know, the satisfaction that comes from our customers and our carers. And ensuring, you know, that we live to, you know, our promise and our mission, that every successful transaction will lead to 2 women getting jobs. So mother going back to work and a carer getting a job, right? So that's very important for us.
That leads to my next question actually, because you've managed to build a business that is real transformative, in my opinion, and empowering a lot of women, both your own staff and also child caregivers out there. But often, you know, a startup, as they grow along, sometimes the core, how do you ensure that the core values of Kiddocare is not overshadowed by the need to scale, to expand? I understand it's a natural step, but how do you keep that value, that mission that you have just mentioned intact?
Yeah, I think, you know, we struggle, you know, to be very honest, we struggle along the way, right? Especially when we get our investors in, you know, some might have their own, you know, thinking and their vision for the company. But I think we're pretty privileged because, you know, our investors and our partners are all on board for us, on board with us to drive that kind of mission. So growth is natural, it's something that we must do, and at scale and fast. Simply because we're trying to multiply our impact also fast, right? So we're always going to be driven by, you know, getting things right first, right? And that is quality and professionalizing carers and making sure that every services are safe and children are all thriving and happy in their service. That I think with that, you know, even the communities of our parents will support by talking about us, and that actually drives the market, you know, demand and also reach. I think the growth will be what do you call it? A holistic growth, right? And that's important for us. As the company scale, we want more women as our Kiddocarers to scale. We want to be able to create more higher job opportunities, value added into them, right? And yeah, I guess it's a constant need to balance. But for as long as we, you know, keep doing things right and putting the priorities of our customers and our carers, you know, first, the company will grow naturally. Okay,
just 2 minutes left. How do you envision Kiddocare, let's say, in the next 5 years? Yeah, besides having more footprints around Southeast Asia, where do you see Kiddocare? What other ceilings do you wish to break in terms of, you know, as personally as an entrepreneur, a woman? What's next?
You know, we started off with trying to help young mothers enter workforce, right? But, you know, as the company grow, we're serving many types of families, right? And I'm also personally getting older. We feel that also that pinch of, you know, after the children, it's also our elders that women usually have to take care of, right? So now we're addressing that kind of that sandwich generation, right? So naturally, I think, you know, as we grow with families, with our services, with their children, how else can we help parents, right? So we're moving and building, evolving our company from just a childcare platform to become a holistic family care platform, where, you know, we've piloted some of our services to take care of the elderly, aged care services, and everything in between. So children with special needs, you know, sick children and things like that, right? And also, you know, mom's wellness and mental health and things like that. So we really want to be supporting and helping families in that kind of journey. You know, when we talk about, you know, having a village to grow a family, right? A child, right? We always say that, you know, it's beyond a village to grow a family, right? And we want to be able to become those actors and players, and we are the village for every family.
So might be a super app for family care.
Yes, that's
you might have to change your name though. It might not be Kiddocare anymore.
Yes, we'll think about that as the time comes. But I think right now, again, it's to make sure that we do things right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nadira. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and just
thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you for your time, for sharing your insights into Kiddocare.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Best of luck to you.
Oh yes, thank you so much. We'll do that. Thank you.